What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the LMBE podcast, where LMBE stands for literally nothing but everything. And if you guys want to follow me on my socials, you can do so on Instagram and TikTok at the LMBE pod. You can also check out all of the audio versions of these on YouTube if you just type in the LMBE podcast on YouTube. And if you want to write in, feel free to do so at lmbemedia@gmail.com. And with that, let's get into this, bitch. I got a very special guest today. I got my buddy Ethan.
What's up, guys? Happy to be here. Thank you, Mike.
Oh, bro, more than happy to have you on here. So what's going on, man?
Nothing much. I'm just spending time with my buddy. It's crazy. I haven't seen you in a year.
I know.
I was driving up, and I was like, when was the last time I saw this motherfucker?
It was literally last July. We went to a
Yankees game, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Where they lost to the Astros.
Yeah, that's...
As a Red Sox fan, I have to bring that up. I have to get as many digs with you guys as possible.
I don't know, dude. The Astros are just the Yankees' kryptonite for the past, I want to say the past, 6 years at this point.
That's not true, because your bullpen, the Yankees' bullpen, has been the Yankees' kryptonite.
That's facts.
For the past... When was the last time you won a World Series?
2009.
Dude, that is a fucking drought, man.
Dude,
California doesn't have droughts that bad.
I think it's the second or third longest drought in Yankee history without going with the championship.
Because you guys didn't win in the 80s.
Did not win in the 80s.
But you won in the 70s.
Yeah, with Reggie Jackson.
2009?
Yeah, man. What is that? 15 years at this point?
Going on 15.
Jesus. It's the second longest drought in Yankee history.
Which is crazy, because you guys are the Yankees.
I know.
You don't have droughts like that.
And that's the problem. That honestly really is the problem, because as Yankees fans, we're not used to not winning.
Yeah, exactly.
It's bad, because I'm also a Pats fan, so it makes me look like I'm just a total winner picker. But I also live in Connecticut, so it's what else do I have to fucking root for?
Yeah, whatever New York teams or Boston teams are winning, you can just pick and choose.
Well, I think Hartford is the dividing line. I think if you're in Hartford and above, you go
New
Boston.
England, yeah.
And then if you're below Hartford, and Fairfield County, we all go for New York.
And I don't mean to toil on your Yankees pain, but you guys haven't even been to a World Series since 2009, right?
No, we have not.
Dude, the Royals have more World Series appearances than you guys.
The Mets.
The Indians.
Dude, the fucking Cubs. The Cubs won a World Series before the Yankees could this decade.
The Cubbies. The lovable losers, right?
Oh, dude, actually, there's this guy that I see all the time on TikTok who's an absolute White Sox fan. And all he talks about is how much he hates the White Sox, but how much he also loves rooting for them.
Why does he love rooting for them?
Because it's it's your team. That's the team that you grew up for. So he loves rooting for them, but he also understands the turmoil of what that organization is.
Yes. Well, that comes with the territory of rooting for teams like that. You sort of just embrace the misery. So do you think it's the management? It's still the Steinbrenner family that owns the Yankees.
Yeah, his son owns them.
Yeah. So do you think it stems from management, or is it just bad luck?
I don't know. That's a great question. I think a lot of it has to do with management. I think a lot of it has to do with the Yankees pitching staff.
Yeah.
Because, I don't know, for the past, I want to say at least the past 10 years, the Yankees just have not had good relief pitching. I don't know, but then in the offseason, all they do is they go and get another bat. Right now, I think the Yankees have given up the most amount of runs in the major leagues, or maybe they're the third most amount. I said it on one of my podcasts, maybe 3 weeks ago. I can't remember what the stat was, but they just absolutely refuse to look at pitching, and that has been their downfall, because they have Cole, they have Nestor, but other than those two, I can't think of a legit actual ace they have. Mm-hmm. They picked up Rodon, who prior to the Yankees was kind of an up-and-coming star, and all of a sudden now he gets on the Yankees and he sucks. And he's not the first person that this has happened to, where players who do very well for other organizations get on the Yankees and they fucking suck.
Yeah. Well, that happens in NFL free agency too, right? These guys from other teams who ball out, they sign these big contracts and then they go to another team and they disappoint.
Well,
is it similar to that? Or?
Well, I don't know, because I feel like in a case like that, where it's such a demanding sport, where it's so physically so physically challenging. A lot of that could also be just the player just being like, oh, I got my bag, so now I don't need to be as productive.
That's true.
Because they're like, I don't want to totally kill myself. I already got paid, so what's it matter?
Yeah.
Whereas with baseball, I mean, you could have look at Nolan Ryan. Dude had like a 35-year career almost.
Nolan Ryan was unbelievable. You recommended that documentary. I watched it. I didn't really know anything about him. I was absolutely blown away with what he accomplished.
Oh, I didn't really know much about Nolan either. I think
he was like 70s, 80s, right? Or
he started in like the late 60s. I think he retired in the 90s.
He had a like 25-year career.
It's fucking crazy. Oh, I said 35. It was 25. That's wild. So yeah, you can have a Brady-esque career. For any baseball player could have a Brady-esque career.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's a matter of like the production just goes down due to the player in that regard, but I think it just comes down to the fact of who is on their staff and are they able to work with these people. And I think the Yankee system is just so specific to what they want that they don't know how to adhere to other people.
Gotcha.
I could be totally wrong. This is just me not knowing anything about how this shit works.
Well, but you've followed the Yankees your entire life.
Yeah.
You watched that Derek Jeter documentary, which you told me did a really good in-depth dive to the Yankees. What was their secret sauce when they had that dynasty going in the early 2000s?
From what I remember, I watched this documentary, 2 years ago now?
Yeah, the captain. Right?
Yeah.
ESPN.
From what I remember, I haven't seen it since I saw it, but in the 90s, because they went through a drought from, 78 to 96?
Yeah.
And according to what I remember Jeter saying, it was a lot of hungry guys.
Okay.
They were all like rookies. I mean, Jeter came up on a rookie contract. Posada, Mariano, Pettit, the core four came up all through the farm system, and it was just a bunch of hungry dudes who just wanted to win. And then what happened in the early 2000s with Roger Clemens, Randy Johnson, Gary Sheffield, like all those guys, Bernie Williams, it was a lot of ego. It was all these big name guys already, all collaborating on the same team, and I think they were more looking at personal accolades rather than team accolades.
Okay.
So the thing with 09, from what Jeter said, was they kind of brought back that late 90s mentality where it was a bunch of guys who needed a World Series to really enhance their career.
Like A-Rod, right?
A-Rod.
Yeah.
Like A-Rod was a big one because he only has the one. For as prominent as a player as he was back in the day, he's only got the one.
And he played 16, 17 years. Like, he had a really, really long career.
Yeah, I don't know. He came up, I think, around the same time as Jeter. I think he retired in 2016, I want to say. And it wasn't too much longer after Jeter. But CC Sabathia was another one who needed that probably World Series
He
win.
was on that 09 team, too?
Yeah. Oh, my God. Without CC.
You guys were loaded.
We had a lot of great players on that team. We had Teixeira. We had, obviously, Jeter, Mo, Posada. We had Gardner. We had Pettit. But then we also had a guy like A.J. Burnett, who was like one of our aces.
Yeah.
And after that 09 season, he just was god-awful. And it's like, dude, what the fuck?
Was Steinbrenner still alive when you guys won that? Okay.
Yeah. I think Steinbrenner died. Let me look it up real quick. I think he died in 2012.
So it was kind of like Dr. Bust. Like, you guys won. Like, the Lakers won in 2010, 11, and then he died a few years later.
Oh, he died in 2010. So he died the year after.
Steinbrenner did?
Yeah, he died in 2010.
Well, I'm glad that he put all of that effort and all of that, like, emotional capital as well as real capital into that team. He built it into this monster of a franchise, and he was still able to see a World Series before he died.
Well, he was able to see 5.
Well, but you know what I mean. Like, he won, and then he died right after.
Oh, yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like, if they don't get that in 2009, he dies without seeing a World Series.
Yeah, it's kind of like the equivalent to an NFL player winning a Super Bowl and then retiring.
like John Elway, right? He won
Peyton Manning.
And then Peyton Manning, yeah. Except John Elway actually contributed to their Super Bowl.
You're saying that Peyton Manning did not contribute to their Super Bowl?
No. Have you seen his numbers in that Super Bowl?
In the second one?
He got benched for Brock Osweiler in that season, his last season. He was dog shit. But because they had the no-fly zone, that awesome defense that shut down the Brady Pats in the AFC Championship, That's how they won. Their defense totally carried them.
Oh, I totally forgot about that.
Dude, prime Von Miller.
Yeah.
Aqib Talib was on that team too.
Holy shit, he was still playing?
Hell yeah, dude. That team was freaking loaded on defense.
Holy shit.
Yeah, and their offense was okay. They like no Sean Moreno. They like pretty good.
Dude, talk about a guy though. No Sean Moreno. That's a name I haven't heard in a while.
He always kicked the shit out of the Pats. He was like one of those players, like Ray Rice. Belichick had no answer for him. He always kicked the shit out of us for no reason.
But what's funny, I think Moreno only had like one good contract. Like he only had productive years on one of the contracts. Because like after that Super Bowl, he did not really disappeared.
Yeah, he really disappeared.
Because I didn't hear about him until that last segment of the Peyton run, where it was like those last 3 years. That was when Moreno was like the biggest power back.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden he just fell off the face of the earth once that Super Bowl happened.
Yeah. That's the thing about professional sports. It's kind of a little morbid about professional sports because you can be on top of the world, get one injury, and then nobody hears from you ever again. And then you start a podcast like 5 years later. Dude, that's crazy. Yeah, but Peyton was not good.
This was definitely back in my drinking days because I don't remember Peyton having that bad of a performance. But isn't that also the same game where Cam didn't jump on that fumble?
That was Cam Newton's. Okay, like people shit on Cam for that, and yeah, it was like a bad look. It's a real bad look. But he also carried that team. Like they had no names on offense, and he absolutely carried that roster.
Yeah, but okay, here's my argument to that. As Superman Cam, MVP winner, you jump on that fucking ball.
That's a really interesting point, Mike, that you bring up. What was the highest level of football you played again?
I haven't.
Oh, you weren't a D1 Notre Dame 5-star recruit? No.
Hey, I mean, maybe if I had a fake Facebook girlfriend, I could get recruited to go to Notre Dame too.
Dude, Monte Teo, how bad do you have to be with women where you're a Heisman Trophy finalist, you're the best player on a team that goes to the national championship game, and you still have to make up? I just feel bad for the guy.
Did you watch the documentary?
I watched, this was a year ago when it came out.
Yeah.
I watched a little bit of it. It was so depressing. Like, I felt so bad for the guy.
Part of me, though, wonders if he only did it for the fact that he was so sheltered as a kid.
Maybe.
Where he was just like, I need to make it look like I can get women. Like, I'm a football player on the top. Like, maybe it was like a whole, thing in his own head.
Yeah, maybe. Like, he overthought it. Like, I play this huge macho sport. Women are automatically attracted to athletes, especially football athletes, and he just can't talk to women. Maybe that's what it was.
I mean, better than taking the Aaron Hernandez route.
Dude. I'm gay, but I don't know how to say it, so I'm just going to get arrested. I'm just going to murder a guy, go to prison. Hope it works out for me.
It's so funny, because everybody's just like, dude, he had a boyfriend in prison. I'm like, everybody has a boyfriend in prison.
How do you have to? Like, people don't understand that aspect about prison because they're so demonized, and it's more about retribution and not about rehabilitation. Like, when you go into prison, you have no protection. Like, the COs do not care about you. Did I tell you about that kid I went to high school with?
No.
So, his name was Willie Washington. He was a really good kid, but, from the hood. He went to high school with me. He was actually in my brother's grade, the grade below me. Really, really talented athlete, but right after high school, got involved with gangs, and he was arrested and incarcerated. And while he was at the ACI, he got infected with COVID. But the COs didn't care. They didn't listen to him. They didn't listen to his dad, who he was imprisoned with, and he died in prison.
Oh.
Like 23 years old.
Dude, rest in peace to that.
So, not to get too much into the U.S. prison epidemic, but Aaron Hernandez, people are like, how could you have a boyfriend? I'm like, I totally get it. You got to do what you got to do. You got to do what you got to do, man.
So, you ever been in the situation where you got to do what you got to do?
Not like that. Not that bad. I've been very, very lucky. I don't really get in trouble a lot, but I've been in a couple situations that could have gotten hairy, and luckily it worked out for me.
Dude, I think everybody has those situations, and it's not totally uncommon.
But have you ever been in a situation where you've almost gotten arrested or shit almost got really, really bad for you, but it didn't?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, so
I'm not stupid. I'm crazy. I'm not stupid.
I'm crazy. There's a difference.
But, you know, speaking of prisons, I feel like we didn't do it. I should probably introduce you. Like, Ethan, who are you and why should people care?
Well, first of all, you should not care about me. Just a speck. I'm just a speck. But I'm friends with Mike. I went to undergrad at Roger Williams, and I hated it so much, I came back again for law school.
Actually, you know, how is law school? How's it going?
Law school sucks.
Would you recommend it?
So people come up to me all the time, and once they find out I'm in law school, people want to talk to me after that. Nobody wants to talk to me after that. I always recommend you have to really know you want to do it. Because you actually mentioned when we were talking about a year ago, you're like, should I go to law school?
I did think about it.
Playing with the idea. I'm like, you have to absolutely be 100% committed. Because there are people who just go to law school as sort of a continuing educational aspect of their life.
Like thinking it's just another master's or something?
Undergrad to MBA to master's in teaching to law school. It's just what they do. It's brutal. I don't care how smart you are. There's really, really smart people in my class, really accomplished people, and you will be humbled. You will be fucking humbled, dude, let me tell you.
I think I will definitely 100% be one of those people that's humbled.
Everybody is. Doesn't matter who you are.
Bro, in my undergraduate career, because I only did my bachelor's, I don't think I even took a single note.
Yeah, let me tell you.
Like, I didn't even read a fucking book, dude.
So for everybody that didn't know Mike in undergrad, I had the privilege of not only knowing Mike in undergrad, but knowing his studying habits, which were coming into class with 2 minutes to spare before class. And we sat next to each other in 3-4 classes?
We were both history majors, so there really weren't that many options on who you could have as a professor. So we just ended up in a bunch of classes together.
Yeah.
And that's how we met, because we just had so many classes. It was just like how many group projects or whatever.
Uh-huh. Well, we sat next to each other. And this is how it went. Like, you would walk in, hood on, recovering from a crippling hangover. I would be sitting there, diligently taking notes, like paying attention to the professor, raising my hand. And Mike would have the hood on, laptop open, taking notes. I don't think so. Now, I think the statute of limitations has run on this stuff. So if your parents listen, I don't think they could formally charge you with this. And he would just be watching Cheers. And I text Mike that night. I'd be like, "Hey, I didn't really understand this part of the lecture." And he was like, "I was ripping through Cheers episodes, man. I don't know." But then we got the same grades, which was the most infuriating thing. I would bust my ass for the same grades that Cheers got.
And what the genius of it is because professors would spot if you had your headphones on. So what I would do is I would just turn off the volume on my computer and just put on the captions.
Dude. Did Cheers teach you more than any Roger teacher ever could?
Dude, my whole undergrad was just a Wikipedia search.
Dude,
yeah. There was nothing that I could not go to class for that I couldn't also look up on Wikipedia the night before. Like, that's what I would do. I would sit in class because attendance was mandatory and it was however percentage of your grade or whatever.
Yeah.
But I'm like, okay, I'm just going to go to class just to go to class. And then the night before we had to take a test or something, I would just Google
Wikipedia.
Because they would give us like 10 topics. Because in history, everything was like, it was based on writing. Like, could you write, could you defend, whatever it was that you were talking about. Like, it wasn't multiple choice tests like it was in high school. Everything was like essay based. And out of like the 10 essays or 10 essay question, you had to answer 3 of them? Mm-hmm. And you had to do like a certain amount of like however much, like whatever you could write is what the test was. So the night before the test, I would just look up those 10 questions.
And everybody else, let me tell you.
Like, I'm just like, why am I going to fucking study?
Yeah, there's no point. There's no point. Well, did you overall enjoy your experience at Roger?
I think for what we paid, I think the education is subpar.
Absolutely.
I think the friends that I made and the relationships that I made were what made it worth it. Mm-hmm. But if you're going to school just for the academic side, and the academics is truly what you care about and not so much as the social side, then you really should do your research, because there's a lot of schools that make you pay a shit ton of money for a very subpar education for a degree that most likely you're not even gonna fucking use. I'm a double communications and history major. I'm working in marketing.
Yeah, right?
I am not, like, the whole reason I even thought about law school initially was only for the fact that I was a history major and I was like, what else could I do besides being a teacher that I could utilize this degree in? And the only thing I could think of was just more and more education. And I'm like, I don't want to pump out any more money than I have to.
Mm-hmm. But that's the death spiral with education that a lot of people get into. Like, they just keep going and going through different educational institutions and dump. That's how you get hundreds of thousands in debt.
Dude, the way that colleges are now, though, regardless, you're going to be hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt.
They're not we were talking about this earlier. They're hedge funds. They really are.
They 100%.
They don't pay taxes. Like, it's crazy.
All right, so here's a question. The only other institutions that I can think of that do not pay taxes are churches. And given the sense of what politics are nowadays, do you think that universities are now just the churches of the liberal party? And I'm not really trying to make it sound like it's just a totally like political thing, but a lot of these progressive movements do tend to come out of these liberal arts colleges. I mean, look at what's going on in Harvard. Look at what's going on like around the country with the whole Palestine movement, like everything.
Yeah.
All of this stuff. And who honestly is the main population of the Democratic base, but college students.
College educated, yeah. Especially that, college educated.
So it's like, do we kind of treat these college professors as the priests of like a Christian church?
No, I think that's honestly a really interesting point. I've never thought of that before, comparing the church with universities, but there are a lot of really specific comparisons with that.
The more that I think about it, every religion is a cult in some aspect or another, right?
Have you ever heard the good line about comparing cults and religion? A religion is just a cult with time. Like, if you give a cult time, it becomes a religion.
But I mean, look, and I'm saying this as a Catholic, so I'm just thinking about it in the sense of how every religion has some sort of a leader, right? And everybody's its followers. Like in the face of Christianity, Jesus was its leader, and all of the followers are Christians. So in essence, like every religion starts from a cultish kind of aspect. This might sound like totally negative. I don't know. I'm not trying to make it sound negative, but the way that I'm kind of thinking about it on a university level is like the liberal left has now become sort of a religion. And you could say this about the MAGA movement too, where Trump is their leader. But I don't see the MAGA movement getting nearly as much love in universities, which, I mean, makes sense. I mean, look at what MAGA is.
Well, look at the demographics of colleges too, compared to the demographics of the MAGA base. Like, the MAGA base is older, white, not non-college educated. The college campuses are diverse young people.
But so, you know what's making me kind of nervous about this? Is the fact that it's like the educated versus the non-educated. Like
college.
That's what I'm saying. Like in the sense of college, where it's just like, just because I went to college, it doesn't make me any smarter than the guy who went to trade school who's going to vote for Trump.
It doesn't, but going to a university and being in that sort of diverse ecosystem, Roger Williams wasn't really diverse. But you,
oh my God, no! Oh my God!
But you
rich
still
white underachievers, dude. Like,
rich white under. But you still had different ideas, different perspectives, and that's what you get from going to college. You get perspective. Not going to college, you sort of stay in that same echo chamber that you were raised in.
But not necessarily, because it's just a different sort of echo chamber, for lack of a better word for what you said. Only for the fact that you're still getting diverse opinions and diverse ideas. It's just not on an academic level. Like, when you're doing something that's more blue collar, you're actually in it with those guys. Like, you're speaking to people who are more diverse. You're not going to just school with them and being forced to be taught their ways. Mm-hmm. And I would say that me dealing with people in those certain areas where they might not have gone to college. But I gotta tell you, like, a lot of them were incredibly smart, regardless of their quote-unquote lack of education. I mean, hell, I think I learned more from them.
I'm not equating intelligence or anything like that to your level of education. There are people with PhDs who are morons.
But that's what I think is what's happening is.
It's always been like that. That academia has always been like that.
No, and I understand that, but that's what I'm trying to get at, is the fact that this liberal progressivist party, because they're quote-unquote college educated, it automatically makes them think that they're better than somebody.
Grandiose sense of self.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I think, because, I don't know, you don't hear conservatives, even like ultra-conservatives, like MAGA movement type people, they're not trying to legitimately force their opinions on you where they're taking away your right to say something because they don't agree with it.
Couldn't you say, isn't that their whole point on banning abortion, though?
No, not at all. It's no different. It's different in the sense of they're not limiting what I can say. Like MAGA people are not
limiting what you can do.
They're limiting what you could do, yeah, arguably.
How is that different?
But also, even with the abortion issue, they just brought it back to the states. So at that point, it's up to the people. If the people really wanted it, then vote in your local legislative and vote for it. So
it's a Supreme Court decision, though. You can't vote on that.
No, but the Supreme Court decision was whether or not it was constitutional or not. They said that it was not, so they brought it back to the states. So if the states want it, then you can vote it to be legal. Mm-hmm. So therefore, it brought back power to the people.
Right.
So, in the sense of they're not taking away what you can do, they might be making it harder to access, but they're not fully taking it away. The left, like the people of like the Progressive Party, the AOCs of the world, they're taking away certain words that like just because they don't like a word or they don't like
you're canceled.
You're canceled. Like the amount of like comedians or whatever that got canceled for something that was nonchalant fucking 15 years ago, they're getting their fucking jobs taken away because some idiot on a blue screen is like, hey, I didn't like what this person had to say.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't see any conservative doing that. I see that coming from the Liberal Party.
But here's my counter argument to that. If you do not align with Donald Trump, you're out of the party.
Well, there's a difference between telling somebody else not to do something versus you not accepting somebody else. Or maybe instead of the word acceptance, maybe I'm thinking of the word tolerance, where I might not like what you do, so I don't necessarily tolerate it, and I probably wouldn't do it, but I'm not going to tell you not to do it if that's what you want. Like, I don't see... because my whole thing, and I mean, if it's not obvious, it's going to be obvious now that I am a little bit more conservative. But my whole thing is small government. I don't want the government telling me what I can and can't do. And then the option of abortion, I'm on that same side where I don't think it's something that the government should take away. Even as a Catholic, I still think it's a right that women should have. And even though I don't necessarily agree with the idea of it, I'm not going to tell somebody else that they can't do it.
No, I understand where you're coming from. My whole thing is, like, I go back to your point of small government. Mm-hmm. Don't you think that's always been the bedrock philosophy of the Republican Party? But when has it actually been implemented? There's past 125 years, there's only been one president to actually shrink the size of the government. Every president, Democratic and Republican, have always expanded it. So how is that even like, how can that even be a sustainable policy that you subscribe by?
It's not.
If there's no party to implement.
No,
right?
There's not. And the government's only going to keep getting bigger. And a lot of this, I also think, comes down to the fact of how much we're surveyed, like how much surveillance there is on us. Yeah. And that, I mean, honestly, it's kind of amazing the fact that nobody caught that Trump assassinator, considering the fact that you guys have all the surveillance on us. Our phones track us like crazy. And you're telling me that nobody knew...
But the Secret Service didn't know.
Yeah, the Secret Service can't fucking figure out that there's a guy on the roof.
Did you see the videos that came out? I watched it on CBS. They were filming him setting up.
Yeah.
And they're like, somebody get the sheriff. But he was on like his donut break or whatever.
I don't know, man. That whole thing just drives me crazy. I have to think it was an inside job. There's no fucking way.
Dude, I told you, you're like way off in left field about this.
Look, I might be. I'm also just out here speculating. But at the same point, I have way too many questions than I do answers.
Yeah, I just think you're spiraling on this.
Dude, I might be. I just think that, like, maybe there's another country involved. Maybe another, like... Dude, there's just so many unanswered questions. Where... That is my biggest thing on this, no joke, is the fact that it took the Secret Service that fucking long to figure it out.
The delay?
The delay.
Oh, yeah.
And they knew about it. They knew about it. Like the fact on the day, they're how many of them you think got binoculars? None of the snipers above Trump saw this fucker?
Yeah, dude.
You see a guy carrying a ladder?
That's
like
the
John
best,
Belushi
that's
in
the
Animal
best
House?
Point. That's the best point you've made. Because they're supposed to have several rings of security around the president. And part of that is these rallies are in random fields. Like, that's what most of his rallies are. Because this one was in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're in these random fields. So why would the Secret Service even allow him to have rallies here if it's so exposed, right?
Dude, it just doesn't make sense.
After Kennedy, the Secret Service is like, you know what? Open top limousines is a bad idea.
So now what? Open field rallies?
Open field rallies is a bad idea.
I don't know, man. It's just, I have way too many questions to think that this was just some random act. I have way too many questions on it. I just do.
Mm-hmm. To say that this is some in-depth conspiracy, I mean, is a little far-fetched.
But, like, what else could it be?
I think it's a lone psychopath who tried to kill a president.
But what's his reasoning? I mean, we're never going to know his reasoning because he's gone. But, like, let's speculate here. Like, what we know on the guy... He has
mental illness. That's what usually happens when people want to murder other people.
I mean, did Lee Harvey Oswald have issues?
You don't think Lee Harvey Oswald had mental illness?
I mean, he might have, but I never saw any reports on it.
The guy moved to the Soviet Union. I think he had a couple screws loose. He's like, you know what? I'm going to move to the worst country on earth. Where's a place where the women are ugly, the food sucks, and the weather's freezing cold, and I have no freedoms? I'm going to go to the Soviet Union. Yeah, that Lee Harvey Oswald was crazy.
I mean, all right, you make a good point. But, I don't know. What angered this guy so much? Like, I honestly, if anything, I was expecting some chick with blue hair and a nose ring to be the first one.
No, they just get offended. They don't actually do anything about it.
They just get offended and scream on TikTok.
Yeah, that's what they do. They try to cancel him, but you're not canceling the Teflon Don.
No. But I don't know, man. Like, that's just my whole thing. I'm like, at what point?
I'm a registered Democrat, by the way. I fucking hate Trump.
Oh, I hate Trump too. I'm a conservative. But it's like, I can't... I don't know, man. I mean, first of all, to hate somebody to the point where, like, you're like, the only way to get rid of this guy is to murder him. But then it's still, at the same point, the Democrats tried a lawsuit, multiple lawsuits. They tried impeaching him.
Now someone even tried to kill him
At this point, and nothing has worked.
Okay, see, well, this was definitely a historic black mark on the Secret Service. And, I mean, people have taken shots at presidents before. I'm spacing the guy that shot Reagan. He wanted to kill Reagan because he was inspired by Taxi Driver. Because that was Robert De Niro's motivation in the movie, to impress an actress. And he wanted to impress Jodie Foster. That's why he did it. So there's lots of crazy reasons that people choose to shoot up things.
Yeah, I'm even thinking of, like, musicians, like the guy who shot Lennon. Like, just on his doorstep. I'm a super fan. Boom.
Mark David Chapman?
Yeah. It's like, what super fan would go and kill?
Want to know the creepiest fact?
Or, I'm sorry, unalive, so we don't get fucking canceled.
Yeah, the unalive.
Dude, you have to say that now.
The last photo of John Lennon is him signing the Double Fantasy album, and Mark David Chapman, the guy who kills him like 2 hours later, is in the photo.
Oh,
how bone chilling is that?
That's honestly terrifying.
He actually died. I think he died in prison recently. Mark David Chapman, or maybe he might still be alive. I don't know.
I mean, let's be real. John Lennon wasn't like the nicest of guys. So I mean,
yeah. He's someone that you can definitely say sort of benefited from dying a little prematurely. Yeah. He's sort of seen as sort of a martyr figure, like this big, brilliant artist, and like he emotionally abused his first child. Like he was a really bad person.
Dude, as Bill Burr likes to say, you can outstay your welcome.
Yeah, no, right? That quote from Batman, you can either die a hero, but live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
Yeah.
That's very, very true.
I mean, if that's not fucking Trump right now, if that's not the definition of Trump.
I would argue he became a villain before he got into politics, but that's another,
It was right after
another
Home Alone.
discussion. Home Alone 2 is when he peaks, and then after that...
But I'm even thinking, like, Dimebag Darrell, who was the guitarist for Pantera, like, some super fan, like, while he was on stage, just killed him, just shot him.
Oh my god.
And it's like, why? Like, it
Selena, too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
she
it's
was-
like, no. I think Selena was actually, I think she was killed by her aunt or her godmother or something.
I thought she was signing autographs, and then a fan capped her.
I don't know if it was a fan.
Are you thinking of Marvin Gaye, his dad? Marvin Gaye's dad killed him.
I might be. I don't know. I'm trying to remember the movie. That's about Selena. J-Lo. Have you ever seen it? It's actually really good.
Does J-Lo play Selena?
I'm pretty sure J-Lo's in it, and she does play Selena. Hang on, let me Google that. And it turns out that the kid is right, because she did perform in Selena, and she also got a Best Actress nom.
Dude, good for J-Lo. She's like the Justin Timberlake of artists. Like, she's not great at any one thing, but she acts, she sings, she dances, but she's pretty good, like, across the board.
I mean, I think Selena's the only J-Lo movie I've seen, so I couldn't tell you.
J-Lo's in this stripping movie called Hustlers, and it's fantastic.
Adding that to my list.
Not for, like, it's not winning any Oscars, but for the...
I don't give a fuck.
Visually.
I watched We're the Miller strictly for the Jennifer Aniston scene.
Dude, We're the Miller, that's a funny movie.
Funny movie. Great scene.
Yeah. Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Where she's in the mechanic shop.
Oh, yeah. We'll keep it PG for the kids on the show. But
And on that note, I think that wraps up this ep. So thank you for coming on, Ethan. I really appreciate it.
it was my pleasure, Mike.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. I hope we can do it again sometime. And I think that does it for this week. So you guys know the drill. If you guys like this episode, please share it with a friend. Give me that 5-star rating. Write up a review. Please like and subscribe, whatever podcast platform you're listening to on. And if you want to write in, feel free to reach out to me at lmvemedia@gmail.com. And also don't forget to check me out on my socials. And that about wraps it up. So I hope you guys all have a great week, and I will catch up with you next Tuesday.